There are some parts of the continent where they refer to it as article, while some call it paper. So that's semantics for you. So basically, you can go through double blind, like you said, or just single blind. So it depends. So manu from there means written, and then the script is the paper. So it's a written paper. What you have to do first is you have to see how you can narrow the focus and redefine the research question. So after I crashed, I sent it to my professor, and my professor worked on it again for almost one full day. And when we are done, we sent it back to these sage people.
And most of these publishers, so Springer has a journal suggester, Sage has a journal suggester, so Scimago has rankings for various journals. And one reason why I would advise you to use Scimago is that for me, I have a rule. Every day you have to write at least 100 words.
That one is juju. It's academic juju. No one does that. So my point is, when you get the materials, before you go and do the main work, you must do introduction. However, before the introduction, the lady will have to take the man to the parents' house. What you are trying to do now, you are trying to review the family to see if this one will be good for you to put your leg.
What are some of the tools that you use for your research?
When we say code email, it is code for a reason. Very, very cold. And this is how I always describe it. See, today, Tom is still chasing Jerry.
All right, before we start, consider subscribing to the channel. This helps me so much. Thank you.
It's so easy. I have a good musician and I have a man of God. Oh, wow. Nice, nice.
You are the sinner.
How you say, Tetteh, I know, that I know. ShaiGuides, who are you? Who are you?
I'm very excited to do this episode because this episode is going to give my subscribers a lot of information about research. Now, this is not the usual study abroad stuff because most of the time we want to talk about how a student navigated the study abroad process, how they got funding and stuff like that. But then also research has become very important in the study abroad process because a lot of schools, especially for PhD, they want to make sure you know how to do research. You have some prior research experience. That can always give you an upper hand. At the same time, I've seen people without research experiences and they got full funding. So everybody's life is different. But then if you have it, it's always going to help you, especially now that we have so many people, thousands of people applying to one school. It's always, a good thing to have, right? Before we get into how to write a paper, how you guys wrote your first paper, and all of that, I want you to introduce yourselves to me. I mean, those of you who have followed me for a while, you've probably seen my interviews with, each of you. Darius is a recent interview, so probably people will be more familiar with you. With Tetteh, it's been a long time. It's been like many months since we had that interview. So we actually have another interview coming up. So I don't know which one will go first, whether this one or that one. Probably that one. So people would have seen you. You would have been fresher than Daryl, I think. So yeah. But it's all good, yeah. What are you guys studying and which universities?
Okay, so my name is Tetteh and I am currently pursuing a PhD in social work at the University of Kentucky.
That's good.
Okay, my name is Eriel Ehigie, and I'm currently pursuing a PhD in French language and linguistics at the University at Buffalo.
That's good. PhD researchers. That's good. How many papers do you guys have?
So as of now, I have like about 8 that are published, and then 8 are published, and some are under review. But then for the published ones, there are 8.
Presently, as it is now, I have not everything is on Google Scholar, but I have about 25 publications. Some I authored, and some I also co-authored with some other scholars too. Yeah, and then some others you see there on ResearchGate. They are just parts of some chapters from my thesis, but basically it's around 25 right now.
Okay, that's good. Aside trying to give value to my followers, this is also a way of trying to tell people to do the right thing, to avoid my mistakes, right? So for me, when I came to the US, at some point, I didn't even think about doing PhD. I lost interest in, academia, and I just wanted to go to the industry. And then COVID happened, and that messed up everything. So that left me with the only choice of going back to school. And while I was doing my master's, I did my thesis. I could have put in some work to publish it. I didn't do that. When I did my bachelor's degree, I had an interesting topic. It was a complicated paper. I could have actually put in some work, and I could have been more serious about it and then just published it. But back then, nobody really cared about whether you take it seriously or not. Nobody really, the supervision wasn't even there. So it was a bit of a challenge. And now as a PhD student, I look back and I'm like, man, I could have been a bit more serious with my life, right? And I was never serious with I didn't really care about research. And I think also because when you are in the social sciences, a lot of times you feel like your researches don't have impact, right? Because you are studying human behavior, which is really unpredictable. In economics, whenever we are analyzing human behavior, we assume that the human being is rational. But a lot of times people are not rational. They go against rationality. And so whatever outcome or whatever result you get, a lot of times they don't really have the desired impact that you are looking for. So that is I am somebody, I like to I like to question things a lot. And so because of that, I just didn't take research seriously. But then as a PhD student, it's when I started PhD that I had to, work on something. And so about 2 years ago, that was when I wrote my first paper, which I've actually submitted for publication, and it's actually under review, but I haven't really gotten the feedback yet, because how these stuff, how they go. So this is the paper. It's still under review. And then I'm currently working on the second one, so we'll see how that goes. One of the things that even make me regret why I have not really published a lot of papers is that it's because of this EB1, EB2 thing. It's like, you don't need publications, but then it helps a lot. And so when I became aware of the EB1, EB2 thing, I started asking myself, man, what have I been doing in my life, right? My life, I have a lot of regret. People see me and some people, they want to be like me, but the reality is that I also look at myself, I'm like, man, when I graduated from UCC, University of Cape Coast, best students, economics, people looking up to me, Teye, like all these things. I came to the US after school, but then I play with my life. So I look back, I'm like, so this session is very important, so that those of you back home, that if you have good publications, it will open up a lot of doors for you, right? It can also help with your applications and all of that, right? I'm very excited to have you guys. I know I've talked a lot, but so first of all, I would like to know about your first papers. What made you write your first papers, and what was the process like? The topic, how did you come up with the topic, and all of that?
My first paper was in 2022. So the Ghanaian culture, when you are in school, sometimes you read articles, but then your lecturers, nobody encourages, nobody talks about publishing or anything like that. And so I just carried it. I finished school, I left my thesis somewhere, and then started my master's. And then there was this friend from Uganda, and he had already done some publications already. And during our first year, he's always in the library. Every time he's like, I have to do this review, I'm like, Charlie, what are you doing? So after we did some assignments. Okay, so we did some assignments, and I wrote on the human rights, the international perspective on the human rights of women. So after I wrote it, he was like, you can publish this paper, right? And I was like, oh, you have to add a few things, methodology. And I was like, so he gave me a sample of what he has done.
Yeah.
And then I just looked at it and I was like, just like that. So I just followed his format, and then I didn't do enough research, and I just submitted it to I think it was a Q1. Can you hear me?
Q1
It was a Q1 or Q2 journal. I didn't know. I just submitted it. But luckily for me, the person who reviewed my work, I think that day he was in a good mood. So although the comments were a lot, they were like, the editor was like, if you do major reviews, we're going to publish this paper. And they went back and forth. But in less than a year, it was published in the Journal of Human Rights and Social Work. Yeah. So I got the idea. I transformed my assignments into a paper. So that's
Wow.
that's basically how I started. Yeah.
How it started. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
All right. For me, even though there were papers that I kind of worked on as far back as 2018, but I wouldn't regard some because some of them are yet to even to reply me. However, so I could still date my first paper back to 2021, and the paper was published in the Journal of Emerging Technologies and Innovative Research, which is Tetteh. And so because at that point in time, I didn't have enough experience, so I had to co-author with two other persons who were far more experienced than me in the field. For some persons, they might need co-authorship. For some, they can be able to do it on their own. So I had to co-author with two other persons, Dr. Oreb Mijoshedo, who presently have graduated from University of Mississippi, did linguistics there, and also Dr. Jimo Brimo, who finished from University of Mississippi and also did linguistics. So I co-authored the article, or rather the paper with them, and it was titled Challenges and Adaptations in Implementing E-Learning for Second Language Acquisition in Nigerian Schools during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it was kind of a methodological analysis of it. So in that work, what we did was we kind of it was kind of a critical examination of the challenges and adaptations that follow the implementing of e-learning for second language Nigerian schools during COVID-19 time. So we use various kind of online platforms, and through the research we're able to evaluate the effectiveness and the obstacles that were encountered in the online teaching environment, because that was during the COVID-19 time, and there were lots of work during the COVID-19 time. And we also found out that during this 21st century, e-learning and AI generally are some of the things that one needs to touch most of the time. So that's why it was important, and I saw the need to also co-author with this work. And one thing I also mentioned, that this particular work that we co-authored, the study kind of adapts traditional in-person language teaching methods to online formats. In the process, we were able to validate their effectiveness within the Nigerian context. So this is the first work that I did. I actually co-authored the work with two persons. I think stop there for now, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
So that was your topic, and then you decided to reach out to them for them to collaborate with you. Is that the case? Was that your topic?
Yes. So basically, it was Dr. Oreb who actually reached out to JT, and then submitted the paper on our behalf. Of course, one person has to do the submission. Three of us cannot do it. So he submitted it on our behalf and added our emails. And when the paper was submitted, the three of us got the emails, and when we went through the peer review process, and we did kind of some few corrections, not much, few corrections. And then after that, it was published not too long after that. So, and I rejoiced. And that was it. And I rejoiced.
But I think Shai wanted to find out how you collaborated with the other doctors. I think that was what
did
he
you?
was
Yeah, more or less. You
You
reached out to them,
research,
and then
you already know
Okay,
them.
you
okay.
told them
In that
about your
aspect,
research topic.
yeah. Okay, so basically for the research topic, one of the doctors actually reached out to me. He was my lecturer at University of Benin in Nigeria. He reached out to me. I was like, because I was working with him, so it was like that there's a paper they are working on, and it seemed like it's also part of my own area of interest, because one of my area of interest is AI in education. So it was like, he thinks I can also make some contributions to this, because I've been trying to tell him that, Dr. Jimo, I'm trying to say I can get to the research process. So any opportunity is applicable, please let me know. So he said, okay, he's going to bring the work. So at that point in time, there were still some things left within the work that I needed to contribute to. So he reached out to me, and then I read through the work, and I also contributed to part of the qualitative and the quantitative analysis, and also part of the results. So it was easier for me to do that, because in learning, as it relates to second language acquisition, was also part of my interest. And then the other Dr. Oreb, was a colleague of Dr. Jimo. So Dr. Jimo was the one that reached out to me, knowing that that was my area of interest. And I was glad they reached out to me. And I worked on both on the part of the qualitative and the quantitative analysis. I haven't studied the work. So I did that part very well and analyzed it. So I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Any term that comes up, we want to kind of define it briefly, because this is for beginners in research and also advanced people. Like even if you are in your fourth year, because personally I am going to learn a lot from this, right? I am in my fourth year and I wrote my first paper about 2 years ago, but there are still a lot of things that I can learn from this, right? So you mentioned co-authorship. What does that mean?
Yeah, co-authorship in this case simply means there are two kind of spectrums to co-authorship. Now, there is what we call in this case you can have a kind of co-authorship where everybody maintains the same rights to the authorship. Okay. So in that case, you don't have anything like first author, second author, third author. Everybody is the first author. So in that case, all the authors can draft a plan, okay, and everyone actually expatiates on one of the subtopics or subtitles, and everyone, so the work is equal. So in that case, when these are published in journals, what you only see is everyone is the main author. There's no such thing as co-author. And then you also find some, which is the one I'm referring to, where you have the main author, okay, who engaged in this work, but at a point in time, the main author needed someone to also assist in this work because Emilio could not carry out this research because perhaps he wasn't able to reach out to he was trying to get kind of a research environment that he can reach out to. So he felt like he was deficient in this particular terrain. So he had to reach out to someone else who can help, or more than one person that could help. So in this kind of case, he is referred to as the main author. And then the second author is, in this case, Dr. Jimo, while me and the third author. So basically, three of us have done co-authored this work, but we have the main author who brought the idea, the second main author who contributed some part, and then me, who now also did many parts of quantitative and qualitative analysis. So by so doing, we don't share the same rights, okay? Unlike the other kind of authorship where everyone shares the same rights. So co-authorship basically means more than one person coming together to write a paper. And usually it is richer when more than one person writes it, because seeing it from the eyes of one person and seeing it from the eyes of more than one person, they are two different things.
Yeah. But then there is also the possibility of one person doing everything and then just adding the name of somebody, right? And I think some journals, they will tell you to clearly define your contribution to the research. So it's like, okay, I did literature review. Somebody did the methods. Somebody did introduction, right? So they want you to clearly define that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, of course.
What about, you also mentioned, Tetteh, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that makes it very, very clear.
Yeah, you also mentioned peer review. What is peer review? What is that about?
So peer review has to do with once you submit your manuscript, it has to go through peer review. So other people have to review your work, your peers. Okay, so from your peers within the same subject area have to review your work, and then they give their feedback, and then their feedback is given back to the editor. And then once they give you the feedback, it's either your manuscript is going to be accepted with major revisions, accepted with minor revisions, or then rejected as well. So once you submit your manuscript, it has to go through peer review. So the editor for that journal is going to assign your manuscript to, it depends if it's what's the name, double anonymized or single anonymized. So if it's double anonymized, two people are going to review your manuscript. If it's single, one person is going to review your manuscript, but then it's anonymized, so they don't know who they don't know who they are reviewing the work for, and you also don't know who is reviewing your work. Okay, so I might not be a doctor, but somebody might review my work and they might think it's a doctor. So you don't know, it's anonymized. So it's just feedback from your manuscript.
And to add to what Tetteh said, that's very true. So it can be double and it can be single, depending on the guidelines that is set by that particular publication journal. And what I just wanted to add is a peer review. So it means the people that are going to review your paper or article, let's get it straight. There are some parts of the continent where they refer to it as article, while some call it paper. Like if you go to parts of UK, for example, they'll most likely call it an article. But in the US, they'll call it paper because to them, article means something else. So that's semantics for you. So basically, you can go through double blind, like you said, or just single blind. So it depends. However, there are, just to add to that, there are also some particular journals that can also allow the authors to choose those that we do the peer review, okay, including top journals. Okay, there are journals that can allow you to do that. They'll ask you, they'll give you the option of choosing 1 or 2 or 3 persons that you trust that can do this peer review for you. We know these processes have their advantages, they also have their own disadvantages. So aside from the single and the double, some journals also allow through their guideline process for the author, or rather the authors, to choose some persons who are in that same area of scholarly interest to actually review their works.
I'm going to ask you what manuscript means, but then I want to say something. So when I was submitting my manuscripts, based on what you guys said, right, they require that I don't put my name on the main thing, and then also if I am citing my own paper, I shouldn't make it look like I'm citing my own paper, because that is going to give clues to the reviewers that, okay, this is a person, right? So that is something that I saw. So what is a manuscript?
So the manuscript is like your document that you are submitting, the paper that you are writing in your Word document. So that is the manuscript. Yeah.
So that's like the paper, right?
Yeah.
The paper that is going to be published.
It's just a technical term.
Yeah, so it's just give a dog a big name. So manu from there means written, and then the script is the paper. So it's a written paper. So
hey,
the written
chairman,
work is said,
professor. Our prof is here.
Yeah, and it is called the manuscript because it is it's kind of a physical act. So it's not what you send spiritually. So it's physical. You have to send and they will see it. So
Man of God.
So it is done by a human being. Okay. Because for example, I cannot tell you, ShaiGuides, I would love to send you a manuscript. Just go outside and then you see the script on the air. So it's man sending the script, manuscript. So the paper that man's write, he send it. So would have said manual paper, but in this case it's manuscript. So and then you mentioned something which is quite interesting. Shai, you mentioned something here. For some journals, they will let you know how they want you to submit it. For some, the manuscript is a combination of both the names and the authors, and including the work yourself from abstract to the conclusion and reference. While for some, according to their guideline, they have some privacy within it, and they will tell you, no, we don't want to be looking at someone's name, okay? And because of that name, they kind of fidget, because let's be sincere, Tetteh, you agree with me, ShaiGuides also you could also find some experts of politics within these things. There are some persons, naturally, when they just see this thing, they might feel like, oh, Shale, this guy's name, look at Tetteh, the way this name is sounding, this guy should not be publishing an article. Yeah. We need a very fresh name like Johnson Jacobs or Richard Nicholson. That kind of name should be publishing, not John Mulama, Adeshi Kafat. No. This one will not go anywhere. So many of them, they just go like, okay, we don't need any names. They also do it in abstract. We don't need any names. Just send us. So they are reading it based on not looking at the person's name, but based on what the person have written about. So that's why some of them will tell just submit it without names. Why for some they'll tell you submit it with names. So let me also add that here.
Yeah. The top journals, they will probably require you not to submit your names, right? Because
what some journals do is that, especially for Routledge, Sage, and then I think Science Direct. Not too sure about that. Routledge, Sage, and then Springer. You need a title page.
Yeah, Springer. Springer and Sage, for those two I know, they don't. It's blind. They just let you send it without time. Even the abstracts. So I will tell you to submit the names and the affiliation separate.
Yeah, exactly. That's the title page. Yeah, that's the title page where you have only that information, and then you have the abstract and then the main text.
So they separate everything. Yeah, that's what mine was. Yeah. With Dare, you got people invited you to their projects, and then you work with them. With Tetteh, you turn your assignment into a paper. So let's assume that I graduate, I don't have a paper, because in the study abroad space, there are a lot of people who don't have any papers, right? They just graduated. Some of them, they have projects. Some of them, they have their thesis. Let's assume I have my thesis or my school assignment, which is kind of maybe 12 pages. How do I turn that into a research, like a publishable research?
So the first thing first is you already have something that you are drawing from, okay? and this thing you are drawing from is a research that has been made. Okay. Now, one thing I need to state first of all is there is nobody that can actually say they have done the research and they have completed that research and they don't need to do anything about it, or rather they don't have any corrections to make about it. You know, I've asked even my professors here, and some of them still tell me that, see, the thesis they wrote in their master, dissertation they wrote in their PhD, even some of them as far back as their bachelor's project, that today, when they look back, they still find errors.
Yeah.
There are some
That's
things that they feel like they still need to correct. Okay. So having said that, we are talking from the point that someone already have a research they're already working on and they want to say how they can convert it. So the first thing first, let me look, for example, is thesis, for example, or a project work. What you have to do first is you have to see how you can narrow the focus and redefine the research question. You have to narrow the focus because you might be referring to a very vague topic. Like if you were to be thesis, for example, in the case of thesis, you have different chapters in the thesis, and then you have just one topic. So you cannot just be writing about everything. So the first thing you can start to take one of the chapters and narrow the focus, or you can start to take like 2 or 3 chapters and then narrow the focus. So the first thing is to narrow the focus and then redefine the research question, because you are not going to be using the same research question, which contains about 4 chapters. So you narrow the focus and redefine the research question. That is one. Then after doing that, the next thing you now look at is how can you adapt the structure for a journal format, because you need to identify the journal, because every journal have their formats. Okay, so this time we are like referring to kind of like it should include more like extensive literature, reviewed methodology, chapters. Some journals will tell you how they want it. Okay, so when you get the journal, you check the kind of format that they want. Okay, but in this case, we are saying for a paper, you must have kind of condensed summary, not just a summary. And the summary, so you should be able to summarize like only the most relevant literature that directly supports your arguments. Okay. And then you should also focus on methods or methodology and results that drive the paper's core claim. Because when you say the paper's core claim, it means you have been able to get your research gap, and then you are working towards the show review. And then another thing you can also look at is you need to also see if you can update and contextualize your references. Okay, because if you are drawing from thesis, for example, you are not going to use all the references. Okay, so you have to be able to update and then use references that are necessary to that particular topic that you have drawn out of that thesis or of that paper, depending. And then fourthly, I can add that you should be able to refine the writing style and augment argumentation, which is the argument. So the argument that you made in your thesis from chapter 1 to 4 shouldn't be the argument that I'm going to make in a paper, okay? Because this argument you are making now, you are just making it based on one of the findings in your thesis, okay? So you are drawing it based on one of the arguments you made in your thesis, and you are developing on one argument. So you should refine the writing style to not be the same as the one that's found in your thesis, for example. When I say refine the writing style, more like say you remove all repetition, you rephrase the thesis, and then strengthen the transitions in order for you to emphasize argument. And then lastly, I'll just add, you select the right journal and follow the guidelines. Now, you see this one is very, very important. You must select the right journal and follow the guidelines. Because especially when you are dealing like Tetteh mentioned, so you see the SAGE, especially SAGE and the root-led, you see some of them, their guidelines could be something else. Like there was one, I was going through the guidelines, like I was trying to quote one of my professors, I could not do it anymore. Like I crashed. So after I crashed, I sent it to my professor. And my professor worked on it again for almost one full day. And when we were done, we sent it back to these SAGE people. And when they were done, they sent it back to us again and said we have to redo it again. Now that reference style that they used, that they asked us to use, it was something else out of the blue. I was confused. I've never seen that kind of reference style before. I even sent it to a statistician. Someone was good at the computer. I said he does not understand this reference style. And it was that hard. At the end of the day, my professor told me, he put in quote, forget about these people, there's something wrong with them. So we have put that particular paper aside. We are still trying to do the reference. So my point is, understand the reference style. For some, it might be easy, but trust me, for some, even for a statistician or someone that's very good at computer, it will not be that easy. I think I'll pause there.
Yeah. Can I give you a solution for a reference style? This is where AI comes in. So what you can do is that you can actually give, especially Google LLM, Google Notebook, you can give it samples of papers from that journal, and then let it notice the reference style. and then you give it your references, and then it shoots it to that way, and then you cross-check to make sure that everything is following that format.
Yeah.
It would save you a lot of time.
That's it. I about the in-text references, because that one is
For
very
the in-text references, you would have to do that yourself. And for that one, once you look at it, you would see the format. Some of them don't need the comments and all those things. You have to read from the beginning to the end to change that. But for your reference,
that's one of the challenges. And some persons don't have that patience. Like what Tetteh says, some people don't have that patience.
If you want to
And
publish,
there was
you
one
need
of
to
the
have
stage
patience.
journals that I met. Like these guys, basically, they have their own particular reference that they develop by themselves.
Yeah.
It's not just how they develop it by themselves. So I was trying to check between different reference styles to see, oh, does it fit in there? Of course, this is not MLA, this is not Harvard, this is not. I was like, this is not even Chicago style. It was close to Chicago, but it was not.
Yeah.
It was close. So at a point, I was like, I had to check and know that these people actually developed their own reference style. So what they did, they had to send us one of the works that someone had published, so that we're able to follow the reference style. So I also advise people, if you notice the reference style, because it's not all this reference style that you can actually ask, Microsoft Word to help you through. There are some they cannot. You have to see a sample of it. So they sent us a sample of it before we were able to go through, and then we're able to see how they actually fit it. So sometimes, as a researcher, if you notice it's hard for you, please do well to send a message to them, and they can send you a sample so that it'll be easier for you, because some of them actually develop their own reference style. It will not be Harvard, it will be Chicago, it will be MLA, and of course it will be APA sometimes.
So you guys, what you're saying about the references, do you use, when you're submitting your manuscript, do you send it in Word documents? Because I'm a bit confused. Do you send it in Word documents?
Yes, you have to send it to Word document.
I guess that's why. So my field, or the journal that I submit to, there is this thing called latex. Some say latex, LaTeX, depending on how you want to pronounce it. So yeah, that one is more like scientific, whatever. So you write everything. You cannot send it in Word, and so you define the kind of reference style you want, and so that applies to in-text, everything, and then the end. So you don't have to really, you don't have to do one by one manual stuff. Yeah, so that's why. Okay. Yeah.
But then I wanted to take over from where he left off.
Yes.
The journals. So before you convert either your paper or your thesis into a journal publication,
paper.
I think the first thing that you have to do is to know the kind of journal you want to submit your paper to, because that saves you a lot of time and saves you a lot of work. So before you even jump into fine-tuning your paper or your thesis into a journal paper, you have to look for the journal that you want to submit your article or paper to. And most of these publishers, so Springer has a journal suggester, Sage has a journal suggester, and Taylor and Francis Routledge, they all have journal suggesters. So you put in like your research question, your keywords to try to see the journal that which is most suitable for you, or you can even put in the objective or what you want to do in Google Scholar, see people who have written about it, see the journals that they submitted it to, and then you start from there. But then if it is your first time, it is also advisable to send to maybe Q1, Q2, Q2, Q3, not Q1 is very, very rigorous. And when I say Q1, that's like the rankings of the journal. So with every subject area or subject field, there are journals and their rankings. So Q1 is very, very high. Q2,
the highest, right?
Yes, Q1 is the highest. So we even have up to Q4, Q5. So if you are starting, I would advise you to, I'm not saying it is impossible. It is very, very possible to have your first publication in a Q1 journal. But then if you are starting, you have to, Rome was not built in a day. So you have to start from one place to the other. Okay. So you can use Google Scholar, you can to look for journals that you want to submit to, or use the Routledge, the Sage, even Science Direct has like a journal suggester. So you put in the keywords there, or you can go to Scimago. So Scimago has rankings for various journals. And one reason why I would advise you to use Scimago is that it gives you the opportunity to filter the journals. And for instance, I'm in the field of social work. If you are about to start publishing, it is advisable to have most of your research within your subject area. It shouldn't be scattered about because you are now trying to make your name in that field. So if all your papers are scattered around, it would be like you are a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
So I'd advise you to go to Scimago, and it allows you to filter the journals by subject areas. So you look for, if you're in literature, you look for journals in literature. It gives you the ranking from 1 to the last one. If you're in social work, it does the same for you. So that way now you have the rankings of the various journals, and then the ones that you have identified that suit the topic or what you want to write about. And then you can now identify them and make sure that maybe it's between Q2 or Q3 for the beginning. And then you build from there. And then once you have that specific journal that you want to submit to, you now go to the journal page, look at the aims and scope, ask yourself, does my research fit into the aims and scope? Once you believe or you feel it fits, the next thing that you have to do is you look at the matrix. So see the return time. Some journals is going to be stated there 364 days. So you know it's going to take a very, very long time. Some say 50 days, some say 120 days, and also look at the acceptance rate. So I'm saying this because you don't have to look at just one journal and say, I'm purposely submitting to this journal. So you have about 3. Once you look at all these 3, you rank them according to the one that you believe is best suited for you and for your interests as well. Okay. So once you are able to do that, you go to that journal website, and then there's open access journals. These are journals that do not have paywalls and is openly accessible to everybody. Download as many as you can from that journal, because you have to look at the format. And Dari has said a lot about the formatting. So you have to look at the format, the referencing, and all those things. Download them so that you become conversant with the format. And that is how you can structure your paper if you have no experience. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come to other aspect of the paper. But then let me just say 1 or 2 things. So about the submission of the paper, when I finished mine, I just put it aside and then I started YouTube. So for like 1 year before I went back to the paper. It's funny, but yeah. So I went back to the paper and then I was like, oh, I need to submit this because time is running out. So then in my mind, I was thinking, okay, there is an editor. So yeah, just submit it. They are going to tell you what you need to change and just leave the work to them. So I submitted it to energy economics because I was thinking the paper is energy economics, but then it's not really energy economics. I was thinking because I was looking at something analyzing an oil discovery. So I was thinking, but then that wasn't exactly what they were looking for. So I submitted it, and I think the following day I got an email that it doesn't fit what the journal publishes. It's not a fit. It's not the right fit. So they recommended 2 journals for me under the same Elsevier. So then those 2 journals, I picked one of them, I submitted it, and then they also sent me the same thing. Like it's funny, first time publishing, and it was like doing everything on my own, figuring out things along the way. So then the 3rd journal that they sent to me, that one, I spent like what, 1 month to not like one, maybe like 1 week or so working on that paper, because I had to do so many things about the paper. I had to make it my best because I was just, the other ones I was just submitting the paper, like, because that paper actually got me an award, right? I presented that paper at Illinois Economics Association, and so I got an award. And then my department too, I got an award. So it's like I felt I would just give it to them and they, But the 3rd paper, so they suggested 3 journals. So the 3rd one I submitted it, and then that one, it's been accepted. Well, not accepted. They are still it's still under review, and it's been more than 3 months, I think, and I still haven't heard from them. So I'm still there waiting on them for them to make a decision. It's been a long time. Also, let me say this:
not been publishing, bro.
Is it? Is that?
3 months is not long.
There are some that
yeah. So it's been a while. So I'm still. Yeah. So I'm still I'm still there. It's a Q1 journal, so maybe these journals they have a lot of stuff going on. So yeah,
and
so
one
when I
thing
was trying to submit that, when I submitted it to Energy Economics and then they rejected it, I paid publishing fee, but then because I'm a student, I paid half of it. They give you 50% off, so I paid the 50%, and then when I tried the second one, I got because the first one was rejected, so I think the second one they didn't require it, but the third one I think they required it also, and so I had to chat with them, and then they gave me a code, so I didn't pay again. So it was like the first one that I paid 50%, that was it, and then then I was able to submit it. So this is just some few things. Anything that comes to mind, we can share it, and then if you are a student, you can take some things from some of these things. Before we go back to the publishing like process and all of that, like the writing process and all of that, Tetteh, you mentioned open access.
Yeah.
What is open? Can you explain it well? And also, what is the other side of open access, right?
Yeah, I wanted to tie it to your point on publishing fee. Okay. So before I hit on the publishing fee.
So mine is like the submission fee, not the publishing fee.
Oh, right? A submission fee.
Yeah, it's just about what? $50 or something like that, not publishing fee.
I've never come across submission.
Mine,
I've not heard of submission fee.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Elsevier. I don't know if it's the
Elsevier. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I never published those, so I don't really know.
Okay. Yeah,
I know them. They have pride. They have pride. They're full of pride.
Yeah. I think they have good journals, and so
yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. It's one of the best.
Okay, so open access. So we have open access and then subscription based. Okay. So most journals, you have some journals that are open access, completely open access and free, like small journals, not too big. For instance, in social work, there's I always get the pronunciation wrong. Torah New Zealand Social Work. So it's a small it's a social work journal. It's a regional social work journal for New Zealanders, but then it's open access. So if I publish there, I do not have to pay, and anybody and everybody can view my article. But then when it comes to this big publishers like Routledge, Sage, Taylor and Francis, with open access, you have to pay. So you have to pay for your article to be accessible to anybody and everybody. And it's about $3,000 if I'm right.
Yes, it depends. Some journals, you have to,
So open access means your article is openly accessible for everybody to view, and you have to pay for that. But then if you are a student and then your university has a subscription with any of these journals, they can publish your article open access for you. I quite remember there was one article that I published, and I even published it hybrid. So for subscription, I'll explain that later. And then later they reached out to me and they were like, your university has open access, so we are about to make your article open access. Okay. So if you are looking for journals, I think I omitted that. If you are looking for journals, I would advise you to look for open access journals that you do not have to pay. So like the New Zealand journal that I talked about, or you look for journals that are hybrid. So hybrid journals accept all articles. After the review process, then they are going to ask you if you want your article to be open access or under subscription.
Yeah.
So with under subscription, people would have to pay to have access to your article. But the money doesn't come to you, it goes to the publisher. So forget about the money. So they give you the option to choose for the subscription based or for the open access. And then you always choose the subscription based if you are not affiliated to any university or your university and doesn't have open access agreement with the publisher. Is that clear? Or I don't know if
these things are very technical, and so I think you explain it as best as possible.
Said. Okay. So you like you said, for the subscription based, you find many like that. They take the rights and they take all the money and they eat it. and
Yeah.
they swallow the money like the way money swallows
It is the
snake in my
cost of
country.
publishing it for
Snake
you.
swallow
That's the
money in my
thing.
country. So
Yeah.
so basically but like that, they will only publish it if the work is good. That is one thing. So if it's not
Yeah.
good, forget about it.
Okay,
They will
yeah,
not
okay.
even go there.
Yeah.
And the process of review could be very, very tedious. Some of them can even take more than 1 year. But there are some that can take lesser than 1 year. Trust me, if you have the money to pay, politically, some can take lesser than 1 year. Most of the time, when you don't have the money to pay, that it could take more than 1 year. Because trust me, we know of some, because I'm into this research work, we know of some person that have good money in Azerbaijan, in Morocco, in all these big schools in China. Some of them see them paying as much, I'm not joking, as much as $6,000. And within few months, their work is out. They are the one that suggest the people that are going to help them to do the review. But for some of us that are still growing researchers, we don't have the choice, but we have to pass through the process. And the process is like choking one with a needle. They make sure they read line to line, and they study your work as if you are their fellow colleague. It's part of the politics. So having said that, however, you still find some of these, I use the word closed access. I call it closed access, where they take order. You still find some that can allow you, that can give you the rights to download your work just for a certain number of times. There are some that will tell you can only download your work or give someone the right to download your work, or someone is not more than 50 times. So we'll say 20, so we'll say 15. So you can download your work, or someone else, you can give someone else access to download, but it can't be more than that specific number of times that they have given to you. Why there are some, they'll tell you no, they will only give you your work. They will not give you the work that is published, but they will send the one, before they publish it, they will send a copy to you. So that will not be the kind of the official copy that is published. Okay, so the one they will send to you will not be the official one that is published that goes with their logo. No, it will be the one that they are finished reviewing. They'll send out to you before they publish it. Why there are some, like I said, you find after they have published it, they'll still give you access to download a certain number, or give someone access to join you to download that certain number. For example, they can say, I cannot download more than 10. I decide to give you the password. You download 2. Tetteh can download 2 if you want, but it can't be more than 10. Why there are some, is totally closed. So I just let me add that too.
Yeah, and also it is important for you to stay away from predatory journals. So predatory journals are journals who charge you $50, $100 for article processing cost. So see, for instance, when we're mentioning the top journals, we're taking 3,000 and above. So it's very enticing. Oh, okay, 3,100. Oh, I can just publish there. But then in the world of publishing, there has to be some form of credibility. And if most predatory journals, they are not credible. So you can have your article there and then it doesn't make sense. You're just going to waste your money. So one thing I would tell you is to stay away from predatory journals.
Yeah. So right now, let's say I have an idea, or I have a thesis, and then I want to turn it into an article. I have done what you guys have said. I've looked for the journals that would be good for my paper. I've done a bit of research. What is the outline like? I know a thesis, you should have the outline, right? So, but then turning that paper into turning the thesis into a publishable paper, the outline, how do you format it? Do you have to format anything? How do you decide what is important? Because the thesis is long, so you are going to reduce it. Well, how do you decide what goes in, what doesn't go in? Do you have to do more literature review? Like, I think, Dari, you were saying something like that, but then I just want this to be a specific question. Like, what is the thinking? Like, what exactly do you have to do to get the final thing?
Like I'll say it again here. So let's say, for example, I have a thesis. Okay, this is my thesis, and my thesis has 4 chapters. Okay, now if I go through my thesis, it has 4 chapters. Obviously, I can publish my thesis as a work separately. That's separate. But if I want to publish, I cannot just publish my full thesis, for example, as a paper or as an article. So basically, if I have 4 chapters, these are 4 different chapters, and they are talking about different things, but they are all related to my topic, which is the main topic. Okay. So if I can decide to say, let me take my chapter 1 and develop my chapter 1. Meanwhile, I should realize that I have my research objectives, okay? And my research objectives actually covers for the 4 chapters, including the conclusion of what I have. So what I have to do is I have to pick, like for some persons, they can decide to just take one of the chapters, which is the topic for one of the chapters, and develop it into a paper. While for some, they can decide to redefine or rephrase one of the topic in one of the chapters. For some persons, they can decide to look for a particular topic that captures or rather marries 2 chapters. So it depends on the person. But the most important part is you are able to draw a topic from any of the chapter or generally from the work. Okay. Now, if you have been able to do that, and that's you should also and work on this. You should know that you are at the end of the year going to work on the research objectives, because these research objectives are going to change a little, because you are not limiting the research to a particular field. You're trying to streamline your research to a particular aspect and not just the different chapterized aspects within your thesis. So let's say, for example, I decide to now take one particular aspect. I have to make sure I redefine that my objectives to suit this particular topic that I've been able to rephrase, or rather phrase or get from my entire chapter. And while I'm doing that, I should also put something into consideration, okay, which I want to add. That if you're writing a paper this time, okay, aside from the fact that you are not going to use all the references, or rather your bibliography, because it's not all that will actually tally with what you are going to write. You should also remember that there is need for you to also go outside the paper and also get some other work, because in order for you to get a good paper, this time you are writing another literature review entirely, because the literature review in the thesis was a general literature review for everyone, including all your chapters. So this time you are not writing a literature review that is core to that particular topic that you have chosen from this thesis. Okay, so you are defining your literature review to fit into this particular topic that you have chosen. And your ability to do this, it means you'll be able to read some papers again, not just the ones that are only related to what you see of bibliography, but you've also gone outside. You've gotten some papers, you have read them, you'll be able to engage with these papers. And while you've engaged with them, you try to see what this author said, what that one said, what did this one say that this one did not say, what did that one say that that one did not say. Okay, what do I have to say? I figure out what this one said and this one said. At the end of the day, you are engaging with the authors. And when you are done engaging with the authors, what happens is you ask yourself 2 questions. Is there a part where I can add flesh to this thing that's already been written? Or is there a part that I think is missing that I can write about? For some persons, they can find their topic from what is missing, or rather they can find their topic from they adding flesh to what is already there. But it still does not stop the fact that it's coming from the root, and the root itself is your main thesis. Now, when you're able to get that particular one, that is where your gap comes in. And then from there, you can now lead yourself towards the other part. And that is what also reflects in your abstract. So I just said, let me list some things. I believe Tetteh can also add flesh to the skeleton that I've started building.
So I think once you identify the journal and then you get samples from the journal, you are definitely going to identify a pattern. Okay, so you are going to see the introduction, you are going to see the literature review, or sometimes the literature review is part of the introduction, and then the theoretical perspective. But the main things that you are going to see is the introduction. You are going to see the literature review or theoretical perspective. You are going to see the methodology. You are going to see the findings. After the findings, you are going to see the discussion, and then you are going to see the conclusions. But then it differs from journal to journal. But these are the main things that you are going to see. For social work, most of the journals, after your discussion, you are going to find implications for social work practice, policy, and research. But it differs from journal to journal. But the main things are the introduction, literature review, the methodology, the findings, discussion, and then the conclusion. And then what you include in your paper is also going to be based on the guidelines for submission for the journal. So some journals, the word count has to, including references, has to be 4,000, some 5,000, some 6,000, some 8,000. So it depends. And then one thing with publishing or writing a manuscript, they want you to be as straightforward and as concise as possible. That is when the word count comes in. And then you being able to do that shows your skill set. So you have to put only the relevant and the most important information that It is going to make your paper logical, clear, understandable. So that is what I have to add.
And to add to what Tetteh said, like for some journals, they'll give you word counts, 3,000, 4,000. So we should look at the guidelines very well. See, people could be very, very lazy. Okay. They run through the guidelines. They don't settle down to read the guidelines. Just missing one particular information can make these people they will send everything back to you. You know, one thing with especially white, they could be very, very sensitive to things. They believe if you are as a researcher, you should be sensitive enough to take your time to read through. For some, they'll give you the number of words, while for some, they will tell you the number of pages. Some will tell you don't exceed this number of pages, even if you are so will specifically tell you about the font. So we will tell you the particular this thing. If it's Times New Roman, if it's grammar, they will tell you the exact one you are going to use. And some of them will use the exact font that they want. They will use it in the sample. They will use it for you and then let you. This is how they want you to actually do. So I think if many people actually take time to look at the guidelines, there won't be issues. And then as regards what you said about the word count and so on and so forth, some journals, okay, they will also let you know that the referencing or the bibliography is not part of the word count. So when you are doing the word count, do well to remove the referencing, or rather the bibliography as they will call it. Do well to remove it. So when we say bibliography referencing, it depends. Okay, this definition might be different in different continental contexts. Okay, like there are some people who tell you, to them bibliography is every work that you used, that you referenced in your paper, plus the one that you referenced your paper rather, but you can also add more that you did not reference, but you also cited them. They'll tell you that one bibliography is everything together, whether you cited them or not. Why for some they'll tell you no, they prefer to go with reference. Our definition of reference is every work that you cited must be written here. So it depends on the school. Some schools will tell you they need bibliography, and everything that's in bibliography necessarily must not be everything that was cited. Okay, so when we say bibliography reference, we are referring to the same thing. So there are cases where you find out that the bibliography or the reference will tell you it is not part of the word count, and there are even some that will tell you the abstract is not even part of the word count. They will let you know. So the most important part, like you said, like Tetteh said, we should do well to make sure we read the guidelines word by word. Just like me, when I got the fully funded scholarship, I told you, ShaiGuides, I had to put it on the ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, can you help me analyze this letter they sent to me and let me know if it's really fully funded? Like I want to know. The ChatGPT told me yes, and I asked ChatGPT, are you sure it is fully funded? Does this mean I won't be paying school fees? Does it mean I will be paying health insurance? Tell me again. So if you see me and ChatGPT, we had a very long chat, but finally it convinced me. When it was done, I still would not believe. I sent a message to my school to confirm what ChatGPT had said so that I was sure. So if you take your time to study the guidelines, trust me, it will save yourself distress. Okay. So you can start from what Tetteh said, and then you now learn what I've said. But you see, the guidelines are absolutely important because everything you are looking for is online. Yeah.
And also, one last thing to supplement: if you are worried that you are taking some pertinent information out of your article or a paper, you should not necessarily be worried, because if it's a good paper and you put one part in and your word count limit is okay, just submit it. Once the reviewer suggests it and you put it inside, you have a justification for the increase in word counts. And usually once you undergo major or minor revisions and you're adding a word count, they usually don't care about it again.
Yeah. So the point, like you said, is very, very true. You can actually justify. You can justify why there's an increase. You can even justify why there's a reduction. Like I said, many people are just scared. Many people are scared. You know, there was a time I told you I applied for qualified teacher status, for example, in the UK, because I didn't have 80,000 pounds to pay for a teaching program, and I did French education in my country. So I had this kind of space that would allow me. I applied to the Department for Education, and they rejected my certificate and told me that the email that I used is not a professional email. It was a Gmail. And then I had to copy. I went to the school website. What I did was I snapped their graduation ceremony on Facebook. I went to YouTube. I snapped the address. I snapped everything, and I wrote a 3-page letter to the Department for Education telling them that, see, you people called us underdeveloped country. So there's no way an underdeveloped country can be maintaining professional image for students. So I gave so many reasons. I wasn't scared to do so. That is my point. So after I sent it to them, 2 days later, they released my qualified teacher status. Many persons are just scared. My point is there's opening for this thing. You can actually write to them to actually tell them this is why you did what you did and this is why it is like this. Trust me, they will understand. But like I said, for many persons, they give up easily and they don't even think this process is possible. However, like we said, some persons, even as we are talking now, they don't even believe that fully funded scholarship is possible or is achievable.
Yeah.
Not to talk about this one that Tetteh is talking about. Thank you.
Yeah. So obviously, when it comes to the publishing process, right, it's not really in your control. It depends on, the reviewers and all of that. But then when it comes to writing, you have some amount of control, right? On average, how long does it take for you to publish a paper or to finish writing a paper?
I think it depends. It depends
Like
on
if you're doing it alone. If
if
you're
you're doing
writing,
it alone.
yeah.
It depends on your writing style and what you do. For me, I have a rule. Every day you have to write at least 100 words.
Hey.
So,
Wow.
so if you're writing 100 words every day, you can finish one in like 3 weeks. Yeah, it depends on you. If you're writing with others, it might even take you less. It might even take you more. But if you're writing 100 words a day and it's consistent, you can finish one article within a month.
That's true. Like what Tetteh said now, is as easy as that, and that is the truth. I tell some persons most I tell people when you already have a conference paper, you have gone to a conference and you have presented during a conference, and your conference paper, the one you present, even though you have not developed the article, is up to about close to like 18 to 20 pages. Then you have done all the work. All you need to do is just take each of the slide and develop on them. It's as simple as that. And each of them can be developed into one page. It's just common sense. On the other way around, if you don't want to stress, you can take your time. Like you can say, let me write 100 words per day or 150 words per day. You have 12 hours in a day. If you can do that, the truth be told, within the space of 1 month, you're already done writing one full paper. And that is the honest truth. That's the honest.
Let's say I don't have any thesis. I have just some projects. I'm applying to a school that requires me to submit a writing sample. How will you guys go about that if you find yourselves in situations like that?
I think you have to define the writing sample, because for some schools, they can ask you to submit that project as your writing sample.
Okay. So the school doesn't define it. The school
Yeah.
just says submit a writing sample.
Yeah, like in general.
Yeah.
A writing sample in general. But then many schools will also go ahead to define the kind of writing samples that they want.
Okay.
Most schools would always specify, because they can't just say submit a writing sample. They'll give you guidelines for the kind of sample that they want you to submit. Because they have to give you guidelines.
Assume once you want to apply for grad school, you should know what a writing sample is. So if you are submitting a writing sample, it has to be academic. It doesn't have to be like a blog post or anything like that. So it has to be academic. So if you don't have, so you can use your thesis, you can use like an academic paper that you've written. If you do not have, then you'd have to write one for yourself. And when I say write academically, that means it has to be well structured. Is it APA format? Do your in-text citation, have your reference list as well, and then have your titles and have your abstract as well. So a writing sample means an academic writing. So you have to prove, once you say you want to go to graduate school, then that means you should know what a writing sample is, and you should be able to write academically, write with your references, don't make generalized statements, back your statements with references, with citations, and something like that. So if you want to apply to a school and you don't have a writing sample, then first and foremost, you should find a research knowledge or a gap. Or like we said, go through journals. Knowledge is always developing on something that someone has done already. So, and maybe right now you have a lot of artificial intelligence to help you. You can take someone's journal and then have a conversation with ChatGPT and tell GPT or any artificial intelligence to help you identify the gap within that paper. And once it helps you, it gives you a rough idea. I'm not saying that is accurate, that is right, or it gives you a rough idea, or it gives you somewhere a starting point for you to start thinking, and then you start generating ideas, and then you develop upon that. And then the writing sample can be maybe 1,000, 1,500 words, 2,000 words. You just have to demonstrate that you can write academically, you can use citations, you can write persuasively, you can make logical arguments. So it shouldn't be here or there. I should be able to understand where you are coming from, right from the introduction to the conclusion.
And then I will add to, there are also many spectrums to writing samples. Like you said, some schools can ask you to submit a project, or can ask you to submit any paper. Some schools will specify the number of pages. It should not go beyond. Some will tell you 10 pages. Some will tell you 15 pages. So will specify and tell you, submit a paper that you have written. Okay? And some will tell you to submit the link of that paper. They want to go to the link. Okay, those schools that are telling you to submit the link, what they're trying to tell you is they are not asking you now if it's a Q1 journal, Q2 or Q3. Their own is, if they take that, if they click that particular link, will it show on Google? According to one of my prof, Dr. Isa, he said, if they pick that your article, topic, and they put it on Google with your name, will it show? Now, what he said is, the professor said, many a time there are times where they are less concerned about, oh, is it big journal, this and that. They understand the poetry, but they are saying if they pick that, because trust me, you also find some journals, okay, that don't even collect money. There's no fees, but they can actually publish, and they are also indexed in some very, very good platforms. They don't collect money. They are indexed in some very good platforms. How do I know? I've published in some journals, and I can tell you that, like, I published in some journals in Algeria, some even within the UK. Some of them are not even affiliated to school systems. We're affiliated to school systems. Some are kind of big journals. I started from very small journals. And what I did was that, you see, my school has they have an interface, a portal where you can, the UB library. So when I type my name on UB library, okay, it came out. It did not come out with all my papers. It came out with about 13 of my papers. That 13 of my papers that it came out with, okay, they are tied to some specific universities, and some to some particular journals that are not tied to universities, but they have a very large indexing platform. So the UB platform was able to pick it. So going back to what I said, so some can also tell you, for example, to submit just a chapter. I've seen schools that tell you to submit a chapter from your thesis. They can tell you submit a chapter from your thesis. So there are different ways they can ask. But one thing is for sure, over 60 to 70% of the case, most of the schools will specify what they want and how they want it. Like me, for example, I was in languages. Some of the schools I applied to, they will tell you submit 2 samples. They will tell you the number of pages. So they will tell you submit a sample in French, whether it's an article or a chapter, or any work you have written, whether it's published or unpublished, French shouldn't be more than 10 pages. So I'll tell you, submit another one in English. So I'll tell you, submit only French. I'll tell you, submit only English. While they'll tell you, there was one school that told me to submit my thesis for my master's. Full thesis. Of course, they won't be going through my full thesis. That is the truth. So we, over 60 to 70% of the time, the school will specify. Okay, like me, I had to send message to some schools. You can also send message to them to clarify if you don't know. Don't assume knowledge. You can send message to them to clarify and say, oh, you said submit writing sample. Please, can you specify the kind of writing sample that you want us to submit? Is there a specific number of pages? They will also let you know. So sometimes if you don't get clarification, let us know. But if you check online, most of these details are there. And you also find schools that will tell you they don't need your thesis. So will tell you, I've seen schools that tell you they only need a paper that has been published. And that is it. Anything aside from a published paper, they don't want it. So I said, let me also shift that into.
Yeah. Tetteh, you mentioned something. You said that when it comes to research, you have a rule, which is one of your rules. I don't know if you have other rules. You said one of your rules is you write 100 words a day. And then I think that, Dari, you mentioned 150 words or something. So do you have other rules when it comes to research? Because I want to learn from you, right? Do you have other rules?
Let me speak first. So that So for me, aside from the 150 words a day, you see, one thing that makes research easy is gather your materials. Just gather your materials. Okay. Once you gather your materials and you'll be able to draft your plan, okay, on how you want to write, you can ask AI to also assist you in drafting the plan. Okay. Yeah. Once you gather your materials, okay, and like me, for example, I have some books I collected from 2 of my professors. They teach, one teaches Martinican Creole, the other one teaches Mauritius Creole and Guadeloupean Creole, for example. So I tried collecting some books for them because I'm trying to see how I can get some Martinican, Asian, Mauritius proverbs and idiomatic expressions and try to link them to our maternal proverbs in Africa for my states. Okay, so if I find out that I'm able to go through like 100 different proverbs, and these proverbs have exact translation in Mauritius, in Martinique, and this is then what it means is that I've been able to trace the fact that these people are actually direct from our own ancestry, and they are still maintaining, and that culture of proverbs and idiomatic expression is still there, still being used. So it's a way of tracing the historical origins back. So they were glad to give me books. So now my point is, when you have the materials and you've already structured the plan, it will be easier for you. So if I have my materials and I already have a structured plan, all I need to do is just speak. I can just tell myself, okay, for the next 30 days, I'll just take this plan, take this line, take this one, write on it, write on this, write on this, write on this, and that is it, and I'm good to go. So a structured plan, number one, and then having all the materials that you need and stuff. You know, I said one thing the other time that it's only unfortunate that where most of us are coming from, okay, the lecturer just tell you, bring this, go and write, bring us the plan. They approve the plan, and you go and write from introduction, and then you end that conclusion, you bring it. Sometimes they've even forgotten that you are the one that is supervising. They'll be like, are you this person? You're like, okay, it's me. Who wants supervising you? Okay, go and bring everything. Just bring everything and let us go. So basically, the person started introduction before literature review. But when I went to the UK, it was the other side. You're supposed to start literature review before introduction, because there's no way you can start an introduction when you've not engaged with the authors. That one is juju. It's academic juju. No one does that. So my point is, when you get the materials, you will smile while you are writing. And many people, when they don't have the materials, that's where the issue. So me and I have enough materials. All I need to do, if I'm looking for examples, I just open one of the books and I type examples and I explain the examples. I get more examples, I type and I explain. So that's all I can say. So,
so materials means literature review, right?
Yeah,
yes.
I agree 100%.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that informs like your whole work, and then it gives you your knowledge gap or your research gap and what you want to do. And once you have that literature, and of course you have the structure. So I know that, okay, for this introduction, I need 600 words. In 6 days, I can be done with the introduction. Then I move on to the next part. So once you have the structure and have your materials, the rest is like just putting your thoughts together. It changes all the time. But then and it's better for you to have things down, to edit down, to not have anything down at all. So even that 100 words you're writing, it might not make sense the first time, but just leave it there and then continue.
Go back.
And then you come back and then you edit it, and then you're good to go.
You know why we are saying this is because during literature review, people can actually change their mind and change their direction and change their topic.
100%, yeah.
That is why. Let's take an example. I like to be a teacher in this aspect. Okay? You know, in Ghana and in Nigeria, especially with the Akan religion, the Yoruba, the Hausa, the Benin, before you go and do the main wedding, you must do introduction. However, before the introduction, the lady will have to take the man to the parents' house. It is not the day of introduction that the man necessarily have to go. Before the introduction, they will have to go and see them for another plan. So what you are trying to do now, you are trying to review the family to see if this one will be good for you to put your leg. So you are doing a literature review. You are studying the mom, studying the sister, studying the brother, studying everybody, looking at the ones you know that you get it. And some persons, the process of doing a literature review of the family, they be like, oh, I don't think I can do this one anymore. No need to write the introduction. No need to go on for introduction. They just run away while they're doing short review. Or some of them will decide to say, okay, now I see how I can undo this family. I think I know what I'm dealing with. I can go ahead now and write my literature review and then prepare introduction. So let us take it like that. You have to prepare first before you actually know. So people can actually change their mind in the process of literature review. Like people can change their mind if they see a very wonderful mother-in-law or father-in-law for the first visit. Yeah.
And in addition to that, they just like, you want to ask questions as well. You want to ask the neighbors and see. So you identify a paper and then you look at the references of that paper and then you look for more references, that kind of thing. So that is actually a good analogy. It makes sense. It's easy for anyone to remember what you just said. Yeah. What about, Tetteh, you mentioned AI a lot and nobody can underestimate the importance of using AI, because AI is here to stay, and if you don't use it, you are not going to be as productive as you can be, right? So, but then of course there is a limit to it. You have to use it prudently, right? But everybody has to know how to use it. What are some tools that you use, online tools? It can be AI or not AI. What are some of the tools that you use for your research?
So for me, the one I predominantly use is Google Notebook, because for that I would have to look for my own articles, my own PDF, or anything I want to understand, and upload it myself. So any information that I get within that space is from the particular article. So even I want to do an outline for a journal, I download samples from all that journal, put it there, try to understand what it's saying, try to understand some of the papers, and then I'd say, okay, based on the format of this journal, this is what I want to do. Can you give me an outline of for my paper based on the topic that I want to do? So it's Google Notebook that I use predominantly, because ChatGPT and others, sometimes they hallucinate, and I want the information to come basically from what I have researched and nothing outside from that.
What about Dari? Do you have something else that you use?
Yeah, like for me, for example, I tell some persons not everyone can actually undo ChatGPT. It takes an intelligent person who understands how the research work is going to be able to engage and use ChatGPT sensibly. Not everyone can use it. That is just the truth. You have to be intelligent to be able to use it, especially when it's hallucinating. Okay, sometimes the way ChatGPT behaves, it behaves like a girl whose
it's
heart has
funny,
just
but
been broken
sometimes
for the first time. Okay, so and sometimes when it behaves like someone whose heart has been broken for the first time, he puts all the emotions and put on there. When you're trying to correct him, he doesn't listen to you. But having said that, there are different universities that have different centers that can also assist. They have these online platforms where you can do your browsing, and some of them are actually free, like the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which is one of them. That one is one of them. And then you also have Autoria. Autoria is spelled Authorea. Autoria is also one of them. There's also one called NightCite. NightCite is KNIGHT and then CITA. That one too can also help too. I also use that one. And then there are times too I also use Writeful and then WordTune. But as for the one that Tetteh is talking about, I've not actually used on that one. Perhaps
Notebook LLM is from Google.
Yeah, so that one is from Google, but I've not really used that one. So said Google Notebook, right?
Yeah, Notebook, Google Notebook LLM.
Yes, so I've not actually used that. So the ones I've used are the ones I just mentioned now. But I must state something clearly that it is not everybody that actually knows how to use AI as an academia. Because not everybody can actually defend that table. You have to be extremely intelligent to be able to use AI and know when it's hallucinating. Basically, my point is if you understand your work very, very well, you can actually control what AI is, because AI is just there, it's mechanical. So there are some times where I use AI and I was like, no, bro, come on, don't tell me this is wrong. Something is wrong here. Something is wrong here. This is not true. This citation is not right, because I understand it is my work.
Exactly.
But if it is not my work, for some person, they take everything hook, line, and sinker. So there are some very good AI apps that are very, very good, but not everybody can actually use it or actually manage it. And then aside from that, there are many issues that surround AI these days. And we find out that even there are universities that have decided to just let it go. They cut it off. You get it now, especially because some find out that some of these AI tools and so on and so forth, whether you like it or not, they leave the lecturers, for example, to actually have a decision when it comes to the settings, like in Tunitin or GPTs. They leave the lecturers to actually decide. Because I've tried it up myself. I've tried it out. I've seen students who wrote because they were not academic enough. I've seen a lecturer fail the student because she thought the lady did not write academic enough, did not use enough academic technologies. For God's sake, let's be sincere with ourselves. Shai and Tetteh, where we are coming from, many of us were not actually taught with these academic terms and terminologies.
Nobody.
That is the truth. And you are coming to meet a set of people who are taught how to write with academic terms and terminologies. So, most people, the way they speak will reflect the way we write automatically. Exactly. So if I'm speaking like this, okay, and it reflects the way I write, it doesn't mean I'm dull. The most important thing I keep on telling people, the fact that someone is writing this particular article and you are saying big words, it doesn't mean this person is that intelligent. For some of them, it's just their way of writing. And I tell people, if the audience does not understand what you are saying, then what is the need? Why does someone need to explain the BP grammar? When I can just simply say now is the name of a person, but you say now is a conglomerate and an appreciation, and this, just tell me the name of a person. So for some persons, they are used to that tone and rigor, while for some, they are not used to it. So there are so many issues too that arise from this AI. But I tell people, if you don't know how to use it, then don't use it, because at the end of the day, if they don't catch you, if they catch you for AI content and you're not able to defend yourself, some schools might not kill you for AI content. They won't do anything to you because nobody can finally prove it 100%. That's AI content for you. But if they catch you for plagiarism, that's one, just go and say you did it, because before they call you, they are done with their research already. If they catch you, there's nothing. Just go there and beg and then move on with your life. But for some persons, as I said, when they catch them for AI content, they go there and they defend their work very well. Because they know their work, they'll say, oh, I don't think it's issue. I've seen many cases and many are falling victims because they did collabo and it did not work for them. Thank you.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT to think about certain things. Sometimes I have an idea and then so with ChatGPT I've had a lot of ideas. I haven't really been working on them, but it kind of gives me a lot of ideas about different things. Something comes to mind and I'm like, okay, tell me about this. How, what is, different things. I can ask ChatGPT a lot of questions about some of these things. But then with my paper, Grammarly is what I use. So I told you guys that I had to go back and then work on different things. So then Grammarly, I interviewed Akinton and he told me that he uses Grammarly, the premium version. I was using Grammarly before that, but then I was using the free version. I wasn't using it that much, once in a while, But then after the interview, I was like, okay, now I have to submit something that shows I'm serious. So then I had to pay for the Grammarly subscription. I paid for 1 year one. And so then I use Grammarly to correct everything in my paper, like, kind of improve it before I submitted it. And then in my paper, I had to state it in the paper at the end before the references that I use Grammarly to make the statements academic or something. There is something that day, so I had to state that in the paper. So this is something, if you use AI, they expect you to acknowledge what AI did for you, right? So, okay, now we have learned a lot about research, the publication stuff. Like, this is very insightful. There were some certain questions I wanted to ask you guys, but then in the course of answering other questions, you guys highlighted all of these things. So I don't really have to, ask you those questions. But what I am interested in is, let's say I have some papers and then I'm applying to a school. How do I highlight these things in my SOP? Right? And also in my cold email? Okay, before you answer that, about the cold email, I've interviewed, I don't know when this will go out, but then that interview may go out before this one. So I interviewed Benjamin, and he talked about his cold email, more or less normal cold email, and then his improved cold email stuff and stuff like so. Yeah, if you are watching this, whatever you are watching this, you want to check that video out as well. So yeah, so how do you highlight your research experiences? If you have papers or you don't have papers, how do you highlight that in your SOP?
Very good, and I follow.
Okay. I think what I would say, are you asking specifically now about cold emails as it is?
So both. So let's say you have a paper or you have a research experience or you want to be in a professor's lab. And so you're reaching out to a professor about the fact that you want to be in their lab or you are interested in the program, right? If you have research, how do you highlight that? Or if you don't have research, but you have if you don't have any paper, but you have research experience, how do you highlight that in your in the email? And the other question, the second question, or the second part of the question is the SOP. How do you highlight your research experience?
Well, when it comes to the SOP, first of all, I think we have to be a little skeptical about that, because some schools will actually specify and tell you what they want in their SOP.
Yeah.
They will let you know. And within the US, some schools will not just ask you, they will ask you to talk about your areas of interest, just kind of highlight your area of interest. They are not asking you now to pick one, because within the US system, they believe that in the process, you might decide to change and then pick one of them. And some schools will also ask you within the US, for example, to suggest like 1 or 2 or 3 professors that you know will be able to supervise you. That is it. While you find very few, which is very, very rare for some schools to tell you that, oh, they specify, just choose one professor and then choose the exact area you are going to. So basically, like me, for example, now, if you already have an area of interest, okay, and you know the department that you are applying to, there's actually nothing much you have to do, because basically it is what is in your area of interest that you are going to specify. Like when I was writing some of my personal statement, for example, I read the guidelines, and then some of them asked me to actually name some of my areas of interest. So I listed some of my area of interest, which is has to do with the modern language and what you saw here now, Francophone and post-colonial African literature, African poetry, photography, witchcraft, and Christian psychology and their theology and so on and so forth. So I listed them. Okay, it is not left for them to be able to tell me at the end, okay, if you were to have a choice to choose one, which one would you follow, which I've seen in some of my interviews. So having said that, this is another thing I would love to bring in for the issue of cold emails. Okay, now cold emails, as it is, they work a lot, but it doesn't work as much as it works in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, most of the PhD they are mainly built on how good your code email is. However, in the US, usually you have to send a message to the professor who is in charge. But let me use one stool to kill these two birds in this case, so that Tetteh can add this on. Now, when it comes to the issue of code email, this is how I define it. I define it better. Now, this is it. First of all, you want to write a literature review, okay? First thing, like I said, you go ahead, you get like 5 or 6 or 7, 10 articles, okay, that are related to what you want to write about. You read about all these articles, you engage with the articles, okay? You look at what the author said, the similarities, the differences, and at the end of the day, in the process of engaging with them, you are able to bring out something which we call a research gap. It is without your research gap, now you are able to form your topic. And after forming your topic, it means you've already engaged with that literature. Now, let's assume, for example, there's a particular professor that you want to send a code email to in order for you to be involved in the work, in the lab work he's doing, or in the topic that I put out there, or rather you are interested in one of his areas of interest, for example. Now, it is assumed, common sense should tell you that if I pick out a particular professor and I'm interested in one of his feeds, okay, it is expected that if I'm sending an email, I must have read about 1 or 2 or 3 of his articles. It's just common sense. So if I've read 1 or 2 or 3 of your articles, and I've read other articles in addition, and these things are also contained in my code email, then the person will be like, oh, I think this person have read me and also read other persons and have engaged with my work. Hence, he's coming to me because he has done this engagement. And the person will be happy. So you, as it is, for example, ShaiGuide, you'll be happy if someone meets you on the street and be like, oh, ShaiGuide, I know you, I know this guy. I always see you every time on YouTube. You'll be keen to want to listen to the person. Okay? Not when you go and bring argument and say, this person said, but you did not say this, you can't be, because the problem. The other side, let me just drop this lastly. When we say code email, it is code for a reason, very, very code. And this is how I always describe it. And I've not changed describing it like this. Tetteh is here. ShaiGuide, you are here. All of us are Africans. By default, we are very black Africans. Okay, VBA, that's what we are. While we are in Ghana and Nigeria, the kind of weather that we had there, as bad as we call it Harmattan, that's the worst that we can see. In Nigeria, we call it Harmattan. So I used to think Harmattan was cold until I got to the UK. And when I got to the UK, I saw really cold. Like I wore so many sweaters, and I had to cover myself because the cold actually ran from my leg all the way to my feet. I mean, all the way to my brain, rather. So it ran from my leg to my feet. So it was the first time I was feeling that kind of cold. And no matter how you explain to people, they will not understand because they've never been there. Now, you imagine yourself in this kind of situation. Okay? So the question you ask yourself is this. Just like the way the kind of cold that you meet in a very cold country sends a kind of message down your shiver, you ask yourself, this kind of message that you want to send to this professor now, when this professor reads it, is he going to send a shocking wave down his spine just the same way that the code that you meet in the US or in the UK send a shocking wave down your spine? Trust me, there are some things that the professor will set their eyes on because you have done a very good research, you have engaged with his works and the work of other persons, and you have brought everything together, drew out the research, you have sent him a message showing your capability, you will be able to handle the research and to work on the areas that you think he has not touched or one that you think is lacking. When he reads it, for some of them, they will not be able to sleep and they will drop a paper and they'll come after you. And let's not forget this, as much as the application process is, the truth be told, there are some professors that can say, I need this person.
Yeah.
Even if it's 5 years here within the US, they will give it to that professor, because some professors really have levels more than some. Let's be sincere with ourselves. There are some professors that will sit and tell you, I only want this and this. There's nothing you can do about it. So there are some people that you send direct message, and because of them, you definitely get that admission. So my point is, have you engaged with that person's literature? Haven't engaged with person's literature? Have you also added other person's work too? What did you draw out of that? Is there something you think you can add to that person's work? Or is there a way you think you can contribute to that person's work? Or is there a light that you can bring into that person's work? Once you're able to do this, I get it now, and you know that this is very psychosound, what kind of letter, what kind of email do you think you can send that will address that area of interest that you think that when the professor reads it, it will send a kind of a shocking wave down his spine that will be like, this person seriously has to be given this admission. I will find every way to give it. That's the same way people also get their postdoctoral. Okay. So for me, I'll just stop there. So you ask yourself again, what kind of message can you send? If you understand the kind of message that you send, that will be able to convince a professor who have been studying for years, it's not the first time he's seen it. So ask yourself, how can you convince someone who have been a professor for 20, 15, 20 years to actually look at your work? If you realize this, you find that there's more reasons for you to engage with more literature, understand it in total before you send a message that has a shocking wave. I think I'll stop for then.
And then what I can add to this is that if you want to highlight your research abilities and capabilities within your statement of purpose or your code email, it is important for you to show what you have learned through your research process. So it is important for you to highlight, first and foremost, it is important for you to highlight the field that you have published in. So when I was writing my statement of purpose, at that time I was having 3 publications, and then the fields were child welfare and human rights, and then social work in a global context. So I didn't mention the topics per se, but I mentioned the fields. And then I went ahead to also, because there were 3, it was very limited. But if you have more than that, you need to like come up with like areas very, very pertinent, and areas that like Dari said, send Shiva. So send Shivas down the spine of like a person who reads the area. So you mentioned the areas, and then you mentioned, I was limited to 3. So I mentioned the 3 journals as well. But then if you have more, then you mention the ones that you think are highly ranked and like have high credibility. And then you mention them. Once you mention them, then you have to go ahead and then mention the skills that you have gained from this research experience or from writing these papers. Okay, you have learned how to write logically, how to discuss your findings in relation to relevant literature. You have learned how to write persuasively. You have learned how to respond to reviewers' feedback. All those things build your research skills, and these are the things that you have to highlight within your statement of purpose or within that code email. You let yourself stand out. So you are just going to let them know what you have gained through this research experience, what's practical skills, what's analytical writing, how to critically reflect on your points, on your discussion, on your findings. You have to bring all these things out within your statement of purpose and then your code email to let you stand out. Yeah.
And on a lighter note, I think Tetteh is looking very good though, on his this is a Google Scholar page, because I see and everything. It's like all the muscles are built up. So I think I need to change my old DP2 on Google Scholar. I need to go with Teye, because as I saw that picture, you're looking like a social worker. So very well with the ties and everything. I was like, use AI to expand your chest. Or is
We're
that
talking
your
chambers.
You do use AI to expand the chest.
We're talking chambers.
So Michael from Nigeria, he asked this question. He says that I really need to know if I can still get a PhD offer without publication. I have 2 research experiences in the program I want to pursue. My GPA is above 3.5 out of 4, and the school I applied to does not require a GRE. It is not even considered officially stated on the website. The weakest part of my application is the fact that I have no publication. So what can you tell him? Michael from Nigeria.
Yes, you can apply.
Should he be worried without a publication?
No, you shouldn't be worried. It helps, but you shouldn't be worried, especially.
Yeah.
I've seen like a lot of people in the US who
I'm an example, right? I'm an example. I didn't have any publication when I applied. So.
You see, there's a twist. You see, you are already in the US before you applied for your PhD. So that also counts. Trust me, bro.
This Michael, does he have, is it just BSc that he has? Just BSc?
He doesn't say it. And also he says he has 2 research experiences. I don't know exactly the research experience. I don't know, maybe thesis or something, and he didn't really specify that.
If you don't have, there's nothing you can do. So you just put in a good application. But then if you have, it's a bonus for you.
Yeah.
But from what I know, I've seen someone come from Europe to the US without any publications. And I've seen a lot of people who are in the US who transitioned from masters to a PhD without any publication.
Yeah.
But for me, I really needed it to be able to transition from Europe to the US. So it depends. It depends on the program you are applying to, and then within that particular application cycle, the type of people who also apply to the program. There's no one size shoe fits all. It all depends. So then, as he knows that he feels that is a weakness, that doesn't stop him. He can still make an application, and if it doesn't go through within that time, start on publishing, and then it can balance out.
Yeah, it's like actually, he doesn't even state the program he's coming to study. So it's difficult to know if it's a science program or arts program. Because he says the school doesn't require a GRE. For some of these, like I think when it comes to programs like economics and all of that, even if you have a publication, it can help. But then for some schools, they are like, oh, it's not that good. So they can still, you have a good chance. Because when it comes to my program, economics, some of the things they look out for is your maths background, solid maths background, and then your GRE. Those are the 2 things. They have big weights than the publication, because the publication, the goal is for you to come and then be trained, be given the skills so that you can now publish certain things. So yeah, it's not really, it depends. So it doesn't say, but I think social work, maybe the arts programs, publications they help a lot, right? Because a lot of people are going to submit it. So if you don't have it, so you can, like he said, he has to start working on those things now, right? They can help you. You can reach out to somebody so that they can collaborate, right? That kind of thing, and publish something, right? Daryl, you're going to say something.
I said, I tell you, if you know you don't have the money, please, I have a good reach out to 1 or 2 persons. You can collaborate. See, some persons have the money. Some persons have the money. They will collaborate. We've met some people with oil money. ShaiGuides, like they have oil money, like they are not.
So you got some of the oil money, right?
Yeah, they have the thousands to pay, and these people, they have many of these big journals at their beck and call. They can they can apply to as many as possible. Like the money is just it's essential. So they will tell you don't bother about that. So having said that, like what Tetteh said, is people need to understand that very well. There are so many circumstances, okay? But the question is, do you want to take a risk with every circumstance? I know of a particular school, one guy that I knew, University of South Carolina, for example, is there now doing his PhD. He got there with masters, and then he switched to PhD. He's in his PhD, and I think it's the 2nd or 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. He got there, he came out with a 2-1, okay? And he got there. That window of admission and that point in time, okay? It's possible many students did not apply. That's what also happened in cases. So if many students don't apply, they don't have any reason but to go down there, take the ones that they have, and they give the best qualified. Now you find some sessions, like what Tetteh was trying to say, you will find so many persons applied, and this time they have to find so many criteria to drop so many persons. And if you don't have an article published in that case, which is mostly needed in the arts and humanities and social sciences, it is going to drop you. Right? For some, they don't have a first class, it will drop them. But like the case of economics, me, I know for sure, save yourself the stress, go and do the GRE. If you are going
for the
for
GRE, you
engineering,
need
save
it.
yourself the
Economics,
stress.
yeah.
Go and do the GRE or go
PhD,
and do the GMAT.
masters, you can go
Save
around
yourself.
it without GRE, but PhD, yes.
So what I tell people is, if you know that these things are necessary for you to get this, why not just settle down, get it, so that you can clear yourself off any kind of doubt of, what if people don't apply that many? Save yourself the stress. If you have time to do the GRE, do it. If you have time to publish the article, do it, so that by so doing you are going to climb the ladder. Because let's not also forget that they can give admissions and they can also give partial fundings to some persons. Depending, they'll give funding depending on how qualified you are. That is another thing. So let me be sincere. So what I was mentioning that guy is that in that same guy, he said there was one guy that came out with first class in his set. That guy also applied to the same school, but with a first class, they gave him partial funding. Okay, so basically there are so many factors that will come in, but one thing that can always help you to evade all these factors is be prepared. Even if it takes you writing 1 or 2 papers, get it. If you have to write the GRE, just get it. Because at the end of what you are doing, you are trying to climb the ladder up there, so that when they start cutting people off, by the time they cut everything, you still be holding the ladder at the top. Not when they just look at it and be like, let me drop this last. When I applied to Tulane University, even though I did not get it, and I'm forgiving them with the whole of my heart, they put me on waiting list, which is very usual for most of them to do with most of us Africans. I tell you, 70% of us Africans that got this fully funded admission, we are on waiting list. Because you expect them to consider their people first before they consider people that might have visa issues. In quotes. Okay. So me and this my classmate, we applied together. Me, I applied with 2 master's degree, and he applied with just one his BA. And this guy have about close to 12 to 13 years experience of translation in French. His CV is stock, even larger than my own CV. Okay. But the issue there was that Tulane sent in a rejection letter, but they put me on waiting list, and they told me they put me on waiting list. Not necessarily because I have more experience than that guy, because I've done 2 masters and I've published a few works. That's why, nothing more. It's not that I'm better than that person in French, no. But they just saw that because by right of the fact that I've already done 1 or 2 research, okay, and I have masters, 1 or 2 masters, they assume, let me use the word, they assume that I am better than this person. After all, like someone said, PhD is all about research. So what are you talking about? So for the arts and humanity of social science, that's how it works. But for the other part, like all those, you're going to engineering, economics, just prepare yourself. Don't save yourself the stress. Write the GRE, get the publications, and you end up putting yourself there. And let's not forget, there are some people who came out with a 2-1, even a 2-2. They wrote the GRE and passed, and they even gave them fully funded admission. So if you have a 2-1, write GRE and pass, you have a better space to actually get it fully funded. Because when they start cutting the ladder, you might still be hanging up there.
You guys, you have actually motivated me a lot. You know, you guys, you've said a lot of things, and there are a lot of things I kind of knew already by this time, but I didn't know them years ago. But then there are other things too that I had to learn, you know, in this conversation. So I just want to say thank you very much. I really appreciate this, and I'm very sure my followers are also going to appreciate this. I've interviewed you guys already, and you know, people know where to follow you. The interviews are already there about your journeys and stuff like that. You, Dari, you are the only one that is in 2 episodes. So I see like 2 episodes alone, right? And then Tetteh is also the only one who is going to be in 3 episodes, but then 2 of them with other people, 1 alone. So you guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So I'll leave your links in the description so that people who want to follow you, and also Tetteh, like we've already done an interview which is going to come out, I think, before this one, and that one is about the Erasmus Mundus. We had to do another one, live walkthrough, and that one, a lot of things in that video as well. So if anyone wants to do the Erasmus Mundus, there are things that I didn't know from the first interview, which I got to know them today. So I think it's a good scholarship that people should consider. And so if you need more information, how to go through the process, Tetteh is here. You can just check his YouTube. And then also in that interview, there was Freeman, who is also Erasmus Mundus expert. So you can follow these guys and then learn more about the process. And so thanks very much. Do you guys want to say something, last words, or we should just because you guys are tired, especially Tetteh.
Like me, I don't have the word. Me, I always say last is I let people understand that There are some persons that still believe in this myth that a fully funded scholarship is not possible. So if you think it's not possible, then all you need to do is check my location.
Yeah.
Then you will know that it's absolutely possible. And
Yeah.
trust me, I tell you, you see fully funded scholarship money, it is very sweet. It's very sweet because
It
I
can
can't imagine.
it can reduce waist pain.
Yes, it can reduce waist pain. I can't imagine me doing what I love to do. I
Yeah.
love teaching and I love studying, and I'm doing PhD in what I love to do. And you are seriously paying me to do
Yeah.
what I love to teach. So
Yeah.
sometimes when some of my classmates, some people are like complaining, they're like, oh, they're not paying us enough. I'm like, yes, they are not paying us enough. Yes. But deep down in my mind, I'm like, that's like me, I'm just happy. I drive my
Yeah,
bicycle,
it is true. Yeah.
I get, I'm able to rent, and the money is just enough for me to take care of wife and
Yeah.
kids. I am done because I'm
Yeah.
doing what I love. You are paying me
Yeah.
for doing what I love. So my point is, for some people that are hard, they're like, they don't know how to start. I tell people, determination is the worst form of witchcraft. Is the worst form. Once you are determined, there's nothing. See, so those of us watching Tom and Jerry, see, today Tom is still chasing Jerry. Upon everything, see, today Tom is still chasing Jerry. I have not rested. And if you give him chance again, he'll continue chasing him. You just chase and chase and chase. Definitely, one day, it will definitely put through. But as you are chasing, if you chase it this year, it doesn't work, keep on working on yourself and continue again next year. There are people that tried 4-5 times and it finally worked. There are people that were rejected 2-3 times and it finally worked. Just chase it. Be determined. Once you are determined on something, set your eye on the goal and don't turn back. One day it will surely fit it. And in all you do, also make sure that you seek guidance, because there are definitely people that understand this process more than you. Okay? Ignorance is not an excuse. Thank you.
And just one thing, in your quest to publish, it takes time. Rome was not built in a day, so just avoid those I always get this word wrong. Predatory journals. Yeah. Don't go and pay $50, $100 to publish your work. Nah, it doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form. So just trust the process and go through the right way. Go through the right way, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, thanks very much. The good thing is that the three of us are all on full scholarships, full funding. So we are evidences, right? I came in 2016. What? Is that what?
I'm just kidding.
He was joking.